All right. So the background of what I'm trying to do is like a comprehensive approach to integrating, and this is like on the youth, on the high school and youth level, integrating the sprints and distance side,
Yeah.
trying to formulate a plan that has necessary overlap for profiling, mainly in like preseason and indoors. One of the biggest the one of the biggest problems I see on the high school level is we don't have enough profiling across the broadest spectrum of athletes.
Yeah.
And um my thought is that if we can profile them athletes from preseason through indoors, then come outdoors, we can target them. So our
Okay.
season is broken down into the IHSA gives us 9 weeks preseason, 9 weeks indoors, 9 weeks outdoors. So it's like
Okay.
a really awesome time frame because you can have those 9 weeks of preseason where the athletes are doing their work on their own. So
Mhm.
it's a little bit of self-regulation there. It's a little bit of autonomy, giving them uh so there's no coaching specifics. They're just built this framework.
And
Then
is that 9 weeks is that the voluntary workout
yeah,
that you can have a coach there for safety,
yes,
but that you can't direct?
correct. Yeah. So there's no coaching direction. Um it's usually like just captain's practices and then you just monitor it
Okay.
essentially.
Got it.
So you can give them like what we do every year is like give them themes on the day, and then the
Okay.
athletes create. It's like all right, today's extensive tempo. Go make the workout. Today's
Yeah.
neural day. Go make the workout, and it gives them the what are we feeling today? Let's do something. Sometimes they'll bust out the timing gates. And you're like, all right, awesome,
Cool.
have at it. So you can give them the broadest general scope of training for those
Yeah.
first 3 weeks. And then once they're prepped for it, and most kids do it. Most kids that are in cross, they'll come and they'll do it. Most kids that are like sprinters for us, sprinters, jumpers, not a lot play basketball. So they're done with fall sports and then they have this. Um, but then what happens in during the season is that we separate and all of a sudden now it's distance and sprints.
Mhm.
And then the profiling stops because no one is doing the extremes, meaning distance athletes aren't running super max V stuff. Sprinters aren't running longer duration stuff, usually in season for us.
Yeah.
And then most of the time, most most programs are like that.
Yeah.
So my thought is that if in preseason you can blend those two together, get them working together, then in indoors you start to build a profile, and then we can start to identify who are the 400-meter runners that have more capacity and can push up to the eight, who are the 800-meter runners that are more speed-based athletes that can push down to a fast two, who are the 400 the kids that can push up to a 400 push down to a 60, and then the milers and 2 milers that have speed but are just more aerobic based athletes. So
Yeah.
profile all of those things within that first 9 weeks of indoors. They're going to get the general volume that they need for a general scope of abilities, including high end max velocity, where acceleration development, aerobic capacity. And now this is talking for distance athletes.
Mhm.
But then as we get outdoors, you start to see, all right, now we know that they're a speed based athlete and we can add more neural days in outdoors, reduce a little bit of volume, and then we see their 800-mile explode because now we're focusing on what their body wants or
Yeah.
needs. So that's my thought. My thought is if we can profile them when we get to the 9 weeks of outdoors, we can be way more specific with what type of race modeling are we doing? What type of intensive or special speed endurance stuff are we doing? What max velocity stuff are we doing?
Yeah.
And that's across the board. So, what are your thoughts there?
That's a Excel sheet nightmare, if you ask me.
Yeah, logistically, it's not going to be easy.
Yeah. So our practice is gonna look like kind of mailboxed of, if you've got an 800-meter gal who's like, all right, I'm a I'm a speed-based 800-meter runner. Are you gonna have like like a neural 800 group and then an aerobic 800 group and then maybe like a capacity 400 group and a neural 400 group type thing where they're doing
Yeah, in without telling the athletes that,
sure.
it's more so I'll be able to identify those people and then tell them where they need to go on certain days.
Oh, okay.
So for instance, if I have a more speed-based 800-meter runner, instead of going like if I have Mondays where they're doing something that's like a fartlek, well, I'm gonna push you more to an acceleration development day, and you'll do acceleration development, then you'll do, you know, whatever the week looks like, but maybe Monday is the acceleration development, then we're looking at a neural day on a Tuesday, then some sort of cross training on Wednesday, Thursday, tempo works, special endurance stuff, race race specific work, or event focused work, I should say.
Yeah.
And then uh another neural day on a Friday, something long on a Saturday,
Yeah.
kind of
Okay.
concept. And if they're like a more capacity based 800 person, want to push more towards the mile, then all right, well, on the Monday, instead of doing acceleration development, you're going to go with the distance crew and do a fartlek or something like that,
Cool.
or
Yeah.
surges or something like that. So the programs are going to be there, but it's what buckets are we going to fill, and
Yeah.
there's the overlap.
Yeah. Yeah. That's super interesting. Yeah, man, how do you profile those athletes then? That's crazy.
Yeah,
So
like if everyone is running flies,
yeah.
that's a super easy way to do it. Every couple weeks, if we use a 3 week cycle. So I do like where it's Ralph Olm does accumulation, intensification, recovery. He
Yeah.
does on a 2 week block. So he'll go
Mhm.
2 weeks of accumulation recovery, 2 weeks intensification recovery, because he cycles through 6 weeks. But I have found that for us, 3 weeks is easier because I can cycle a 9 week cycle. So preseason, indoors, outdoors, 9 weeks, boom, laid out 3 week cycles. So on an accumulation week, we're building volume, but then on an intensification or a recovery week, we can do a really high quality set of flies, and we can see,
Yeah.
girls are just naturally faster. Like you're considered a distance runner, but you're running a really good fly time for a 2-4 girl,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know. And that's how rudimentary I'm thinking,
Yeah.
how basic I can get it.
So you kind of have the like, all right, well, your personality has drawn you into the eight.
Yeah.
So obviously you're not thinking you're a 60-meter runner, which like I think that's a huge piece of it is like if you don't think you're a 60-meter runner, you're probably never going to be a 60-meter
Yeah.
runner. In the same
100%.
way, you know, very rarely do you think you're a miler or not think you're a 60-meter runner and find out you're a really good miler. So yeah, I would think like so you've got to kind of start with that like this is how they've identified which feels a little like on the PC side of things today. So you've identified yourself as a distance athlete.
Yeah.
So that's kind of like the big first step. And then the next step is let's find your are you going like I mean if I was doing it, I would probably run like a fly 10 for cycle one, a fly 20 for cycle two, a fly 30 for cycle
Yeah.
three. Um, but then I might even do, I would think, are you going to, for profiling purposes, something, I don't know for sure that I would say a 23-second drill is going to be super appropriate for the eight, but
That's where I think the ASR work comes into play. So
okay.
my baseline profiling test would be fly, duration unknown yet. I don't know which one I'm going to use as last season. I didn't even touch tens. All I did was 30s with my girls.
Okay, yeah, yeah.
Up to it, and I'm like, I don't need to. I just need a baseline, and I'm doing 30s every third week. That's it.
Sure. Yeah.
Because then the 80s that we were doing, the 120s, all of that was going to give me enough of that top end work that I needed.
Okay.
So, um, what I was thinking was flies from XV,
Mhm.
um, ASR 30, ASR 60. So
Mhm.
the 30s would give us like, okay, what's your range for 2.4. The 60s would give us what's your range for 6.8. And then
Hold on.
3 minute. Oh, go
Can
ahead.
I play? Can I play? If someone's listening to this, what's ASR?
Yeah, anaerobic speed reserve. So testing their fly time would give us our max velocity. Testing their 30, 60, 3 minute, and 6 minute baselines would
30,
be
30 seconds, 60 seconds.
seconds, 60 seconds,
Okay.
3 minutes, 6 minutes. Then I can profile them to see where their threshold is and where the gap lies, or where the range is between their threshold and their max velocity.
Yeah.
The ASR 30 and the ASR 60 is there's a baseline, like there's a test done.
Yeah.
The gentleman's name is escaping me, but it's essentially max effort 30,
Yeah.
set distance, and full recovery, repeat. And if you can match the distance, then
Yeah.
you stay there. If you don't match the distance, you move up 5 meters, do it again. If you don't match that distance again, then you're done on the day. So
Nice.
typically, like what what you see, just a sprint athlete will maintain 3 intervals tops because the output's so much higher. An 8, 16, 32 is going to maintain 5 to 6 intervals because the output's lower, but their capacity is higher.
Yeah.
So you can kind of see that. You can, naturally, it's how they're trained, so how they can handle it. But then with the fly time, with an ASR 30 and 60, now we're getting a range of what is their true speed reserve, where do they lie on that spectrum. And then the 3 and 6 minute tests are more so like how conditioned are they. It's not like it's just like can you endure. So that's my profiling baseline. That's what I'm thinking for
Yeah.
bench.
Oh my God. That 3 minute and 6 minute test sound awful.
Awful. It's like it's like honestly, it's like running an 800 time trial, mile time trial, basically.
Yeah. Yeah.
Just a little bit longer.
Yeah. Oh. Yeah, but I think so. So you got to run it like 3 times though, right? Like, because you can't. I know your population, and so for anyone who's listening who maybe doesn't, here in the suburbs of Chicago, I know if I did this with my high school boys a while ago, you're gonna get a few who are gonna run it true to what is intended on day one, and then you're gonna get a few who are like, oh, the goal is to run the same distance. Cool. And so you're gonna have like some very much sub maximal capacities.
Yeah.
Um, and then kind of the way my coach, who is of York uh, lineage, the way he would do that is like, cool, yeah, you can run sub max, and then we're gonna record everything you did, and then the next time you just have to beat it, and then the next time you have to beat that,
Yeah.
so that at least like by that third rep, you might have a kid who does it true to who they are on day one. They're going to advance by 3 meters on the second day and maybe 2 meters last one. But that kid who sandbags, that's the kid you got to run it 3 times for to target
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that would work. Are you running that? So you go, how are you going to space that out? Are you going to do one test per week inside the cycle? Like
Yeah.
accumulation, do you go long to short then?
So
Accumulation week is longer
if I'm
intensification.
looking at like, let's say the first cycle, first block, start of the season, they've gone through a preseason program. Within the first week, that would be an accumulation week where I can do a 3 and a 6 minute test confidently. I don't think that's going to put them at risk or anything. And I can do that within one day.
Yeah.
Because they would understand the intent. So you do the 6 minute test, you do the 3 minute test.
Yeah.
It's okay if you take 20 minutes in between each and you run them as if you're running a competition.
Yeah. Yeah.
People double the mile in the 8. So you do like that. And then that would be really that would look like a tempo day. It would be more intensive than anything.
Yeah.
But, and then one other day that week can be a neural day.
Yeah, yeah.
So
Yeah.
it could it be fly, could it be, or, intensive tempo can be an ASR
Yeah,
as well,
I
right?
fully agree. That,
So like I can use those baselines as workouts
yeah,
within that 3 week cycle,
dude, that,
right?
yeah, that's quite the workout, man.
Yeah,
I'd be fried.
seriously. So, um, you look at it in that way where you're
Yeah,
just looking at durations, and then you can cycle through those once a week for 3 weeks, depending on the baselines, and then repeat it.
yeah, yeah,
And the repeatability, it's like, because you're focused on just building a range, and we're not looking at event specific stuff yet,
yeah,
one day a week doing something very general at high intensity is super effective, and then they'll see a result because they're getting better at the test. So mentally they're like, oh, I'm getting more fit, but they're
yeah,
just better at the test at that point.
yeah, yeah.
um
But
so
that's,
that's what I thought.
yeah, that's also, I mean, that's also going to tell you who's smart enough to run the races.
Mm,
Like, you know, I think it's a brilliant setup, especially if you're looking for that style of training that isn't just logging miles.
yeah,
You know, if I'm running a 6 minute, then a 3 minute test, and then your answer to what do you do the next day is not go run 3, 4, or 5 miles. It's let's do some med ball work. Let's do some cross training. Maybe like
yeah,
uh, we're doing some like tempo intervals on a bike or something. Um, I think you pull yourself away from the kid who's going to be mental about that. Like,
yeah,
hey, why aren't we running today? You're not going to get kids who are going to come into practice the day after a 6 minute and 3 minute test and be like, yeah, I just want to log some miles. You're going to be like, hey, man, I think, did you do this right? Yeah, you should probably be pretty grateful that we're just tossing med balls against a wall for a
yeah,
while.
yeah,
Uh,
absolutely.
and then the day after that, like, oh yeah, we're probably going to have to do a little bit of running to get you back on track. But um, yeah, if they're walking in like, coach, let's go knock out 4 miles, you're like, oh, I don't think you did it right.
Yeah. And the way our season lays out is our first meet, unofficial meet, is the fourth week. So that would be the first week of the new cycle.
Yeah,
Within like week one, you do a 6 minute test. That's a baseline. Then you do within that first 3 weeks, you have your neural, your ASR, your flies, your ASR 30, 60, and then the 3 and 6 minute test within those 3 weeks. The following week, the fourth week, would be the same test
yeah,
targeted. So
yeah,
now you're still running 3 minutes, quote, it's an 8 minute, it's an 800 and a
yeah,
mile. So the volume is slightly reduced because you're not, most kids are running sub 3 minutes in the eight. Um, but the intensity and the intention is still there.
yeah, yeah,
So now you see a little bit more of a specific event specific thing. And then every week now you have competitions.
yeah. And that's brilliant because then you also are going to end up seeing like, oh, the kid who sat in the fourth position for the whole 3 minute test, like kicked someone down and ended up first position 800. Well, all right, cool. Like we could probably be doing a little bit better. Or you're just a fierce competitor, but you find out a lot about who that kid is right away. That's pretty awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then what do you so outdoor, then the move is um gosh, it's been so long since I've coached the 8 and a mile. So, God.
Well, my thought is that outdoors you start to focus event specific, and athletes will start to filter into what event they want to focus on.
Yeah.
Um, we
I
had a situation this year where we had a girl that wants to be a really good miler. She's in, she was not in a position to be effective in the mile for our team
Mhm.
um this season,
Yeah.
but she was like fourth fastest 400-meter runner. So she had opportunities to compete at the state level on the 4x4.
Yeah.
You're talking about a girl that wants to be a fast miler, isn't quite there yet because she needs just general development, but can run a fast 400. Like,
Yeah.
well, this is the athlete that I'm looking at. And now come outdoors. Hey, this is your opportunity to run at state right now. We're not saying that you're going to be a 400-meter runner for the rest of your career, but
Yeah.
right now, this is where you see success. So let's just give you as much opportunity to be as good as you can be in this event. And then we focus on the future after the season is over. What does
Yeah.
it look like next year? And then do the same thing over next year.
Yeah. Do you think she moves up then like to the 800 this year? You see like an 8-4 double with some
I think I mean, she would have been, she was a good miler. But we just had athletes that were faster because she was a freshman and there were seniors that were just more developed.
Yeah, yeah.
It's not about if she was good enough for it or not. It's just that for our team, she wasn't, because there were girls that had been doing it for 4 years.
It's also such a smart rate. You got to have experience,
Yeah.
as the most recent Olympic trials will tell you.
Yeah.
To put
So
out.
I think that she is one of those athletes where you're like, oh, you're fast. Like, you can run a fast 400.
Yeah,
And so you would probably benefit a lot from this neural training
yeah, yeah,
as you push your mileage slowly year to year to build your aerobic capacity.
yeah. Don't lose the thing that made you successful right away. Like,
Yeah.
don't get rid of that. Like, you hammer that, and then you like ease your way. You kind of iterate the other stuff. Yeah,
Yeah. That's my thought for the thing. Now, execution is going to be tough because you got to get buy-in.
yeah, yeah. I think my microphone's picking up the siren.
Oh, the outside.
Trust me if I'm playing music.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. I think that's a great way to do it. I think profiling your kids that way is going to lead to a lot of insight, especially once you put race results on top of that and you see, you know, you're going to see a difference between a practice kid and a meet kid,
Yeah.
and that matters, especially at the conference sectional state level.
Yeah.
And I think especially in the mild 800 and in the 3200, where you're like, if you're not gutsy, you're not getting there. And so you're like, yeah, cool, man. You ran great 6 minute tests, and then you also ran the exact same rhythm and pace for the entirety of the mile.
Yeah.
That's not going to win races, and that's what we're here to do: is win races, not time trial everything.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's cool, man.
Cool. Oh, man. Well, thanks for letting me bounce ideas off of you.
Okay, that's cool. Awesome.